Welcome to Dad Bods, Crab Cakes, and Sports, where husky middle-aged men share insight on the latest Baltimore sports news. From the bank to the yard and beyond, we're breaking down the Ravens, Orioles, Terps, and more. Baltimore's best sports podcast starts right now. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, and all others that are listening, pets, whoever's out there in the radio universe, the podcast world. Welcome in to Dad Bods, Crab Cakes, and Sports. Mike hanging out alongside John this evening. Jason is taking a big old hiatus up in Ocean City, New Jersey. Hopefully no tsunamis got him. I think that impacted the other side of the world. But John, thanks for joining us tonight. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Doing great. End of the month. So at a car dealer, end of the month means that you're there until the last customer leaves. So I got home about 45 minutes ago or so. So we'll see. We'll see. I need 2 cars out tomorrow to hit the next bonus level. So we'll see if anybody needs to buy a car. I'm a great resource. I can ship cars around the country. So
Well,
it makes it a little hard. If you're in
the
Maryland,
question I have for you, just listening to you talk about the end of the month, I know, are there certain levels that you have to hit each month? Because I think back to like the old wise tale. I don't know if it's a wise tale or not about police officers and writing tickets. Like they have to reach a quota, and when you start speeding and it's like the 29th of August, and you're like, oh man, like, do they have to get at least 10 guys speeding this month? Like, is there a certain number that you have to hit by the end of the month? And do you reduce the price on some of those automobiles if you haven't gotten to that number each month?
yes. So you get paid based upon the number of cars you get out. So like each dealership is different. I've been at dealerships where your percentage of the gross is different at each tier level, like 8, 12, 16, 20 cars. You get different tier. I've been at dealerships where you're paid flat fees per car, and then your flat fee per car goes up as you sell more cars. So like you're 125, then you hit 8, goes up to 250, then up the ladder. But I mean, it's more so managers get bonuses from the manufacturer if they meet certain goals. I get bonuses from the dealership and the manufacturer if they reach certain tier levels and things. So if you're going to buy a car, the best days to go do it are the last weekend and then the last couple days of the month, because they'll discount cars more, because both the dealership and the employees will get bonuses based on those tier levels.
Well, in the teaching world here, we don't really get what we would call bonuses, but the big old bonuses that we have our summers off. So, people think that that's a long period of time, but, once you whittle down the camps I'm working and soccer starting in 2 weeks, it's about maybe 6 to 8 weeks, which is kind of nice, though, to get kind of things done, hang out with the kids. Today was one of those days where I shipped the kids off to camp. Josh had kinetic ninja warrior camp, trying to run up the warp wall and swing from the rings and all those types of things, trying to gather some courage right now. And then Cecilia's at the N4E, meaning not for everyone, basketball camp up here at Falston High School. And so she's out at camp all day long. So I am home alone. I had a list of tasks to do today. I don't know if you've ever had a day like that. And I started with, and I'm sure everyone who's ever coached or dealt with kids has had to do like trainings so that you can background check wise, so that you were able to participate with students. So having taught for 20 years and coached for 20 years at the high school level, the NFHS has these certain courses that you have to take to work with kids and to do the coaching and all those kinds of things. And I'm going to do a little mic drop segment. Haven't done one of these in a while, but I have an issue with these trainings, not because I don't think they're very vitally important, because I think you do need to know how to deal with heat illness. You need to know how to deal with concussion in sports. You need to know how to deal with injury prevention. All those things are really, really, really important. But every year or 2 years, you have to redo these courses. So I've done these like 10 to 15 times. And then not only that, but I do the rec sports for my daughter's teams, and I also do the high school sports, and they're 2 different systems. So I have to do 2 different concussion tests and 2 different. And I understand that you have to do that. But here's the thing, John. They give you a pre-test in some of these modules that they give you, and you can get all the questions right in the pretest, and it doesn't matter. You still have to sit through the PowerPoints. You got to sit through the videos. You got to click through every single little thing, and then you put all the same answers in the post test, and then you have completed the course. So my problem isn't the fact that it's not that I have to do it. It's that like I know it. And so like for example, I teach PE and we do percentages when we do weight training, charts and things like that. I learned that in 4th grade. I don't have to do a class every 2 years to remember what the percentages are. I know that we're not allowed to touch children. I know that when someone hits their head, we need to take them out of the game. And I don't need to have that training, I think, every year, or we need to have this pre-test thing count and then not make me take the post-test and take the course. Devil's advocate, obviously they're worried about people cheating because you have ChatGPT. You can sit there with the course and do whatever you want with the pre-test. But they got to figure out some technology where you can just do the pre-test and I don't have to spend 6 hours today in trainings when I wanted to tear down walls and go run some errands. And all I did was sit there in front of training courses all day long. And luckily the Orioles game was on, so I had a little bit of entertainment while I was doing it. Anyway, mic drop. That's what I got for that.
Well, let me tell you, I have a similar experience to that, Mike. So, Ripken baseball forces anybody who's going to coach or even to be like a team mom, they have to like take this like learning course of some sort, and then they have to like read this book. And I worked for Ripken baseball. I trained with Cal Ripken to learn how to instruct the Ripken way. I read the book. I wrote the book. I did all of this. And they still make me take this stupid class and test, even though I think my picture's in the book because we were like doing the drills while they were like taking pictures and doing the things to write the book. Yet these leagues are like, oh, you need to write the book, you need to read the book, you need to take the test, you need to do. I'm like, why? I was there when they were making the book
Yes,
that you're
I've,
forcing me to
I've
read.
read that book. I think I saw your picture. Now,
Yeah, probably.
yeah, I mean that was one of my go-to books when I was coaching in high school. But I think the fact of the matter is, and I'm not trying to say that these things aren't important. Obviously, you need to understand what to do in a heat emergency, or if there's a medical emergency, there's an emergency action plan. You need to know, when to take a kid out of the game because of concussion. You need to understand mental health and how it's important, and you need to understand that child abuse happens, and you have to protect students and kids. But the problem I have is the redundancy. Like the redundancy seems a bit much, especially for people who've been doing this 20, 30 years. So I think they just need to revamp the system a little bit. But I digress. That was my dad rant for today. But let's talk a little bit about the O's. They had a 12:35 matinee in Baltimore where they hosted the last game of 4. The Toronto Blue Jays going for a sweep. And unfortunately, we had to put the brooms back in the closet today, John. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what you saw in the game today?
I didn't see much of the game today. I caught little snippets here and there. Don't want to get caught watching the game while I'm out supposed to be working. But again, I don't know really what to think about Cano. Like it's like one time he seems like he's figured it back out to his all-star self, and then at another point he gives up 5 runs like today. So I very just I guess flabbergasted and kind of concerned as to he has a 1-6 record this year with an ERA I believe is over 4, or is it over 5? Maybe over 5. Yeah, it's over 5. His ERA is 5.4. What do the Orioles need to do to get him back to his all-star capabilities and his all-star pitching? Because it's just becoming a liability. And now that you've dealt, your other top 2 bullpen arms outside of Bautista, what are they going to expect to be doing? But I mean, this should have been a sweep, man. There's no question in my mind. But they may need to send Cano back to AAA and get him to work on whatever it is he needs to work on, because he was down there earlier this season. But That's, I mean, just in the short videos and the box score and the stuff I've read, that seems to be the issue. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, send him back to AAA, see if we can figure his stuff back out. If not, cut him.
You're not cutting Cano. I think so. You stole my thunder because the Cano implosion really cost the Orioles the game today. Even if he was moderately okay and lets up 2 or 3 runs, I still think they win the game today. But he legit was up in the zone with his breaking ball, up in the zone with his fastball. And Cano's game is a ground ball pitcher. He needs to live at the knees with the fastball, and he needs to have the breaking ball that breaks out of the zone. And they were all over him today. And the problem, like you said, John, you trade Soto, you trade Dominguez, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, and you trade Baker. Bautista's on the IL. You have a bullpen of kind of a catch-all of players that haven't been put in high leverage situations all year long. And so you go to Cano, who's probably the most experienced guy you have in that situation. He's the guy who blows the game. So frustrating. I watched a lot of the game today, though. So, the Orioles take a 3-0 lead. Rutschman hits a sac fly. O'Hearn hits a big fly, maybe in his last game as an Oriole, hits it out in the flag court. It was great to see. We're up 3-0. Kramer, pitches well in the first couple innings. I think he has like 5 strikeouts in the first 7 batters, but hangs a breaking ball, which gets deposited by Miles Straw over the left field wall, who's one of the worst hitters on the Blue Jays. Like that guy had 3 hits, I think, today, a double, a home run, and then another base knock later in the game. So can't get the 8 and 9 hitters again, which has been a problem all year long. And then you turn the order over. Vlad Jr. gets a CNI single, drives a run in to tie it. And then Colton Cowser, I don't know if you saw the highlight of this play, John, though. Cowser threw a BB at 96 miles an hour as a pop fly. He backs up textbook. Like he's 10 yards behind the ball, gets a running start into home plate, catches it, and just guns it. And it hits, Jackson's glove, and he drops the tag. And initially, the umpire was in a horrible position, just called him safe. They go to the replay, and it was a tough call, but, I mean, by a split bang play, he was out at home. It was a great play to kind of save the lead there for the Orioles. And I was super impressed by just the textbook play. And Alex Jackson, that's the second time I think in the last few days that he's made a nice tag play at home plate, which we haven't had from our backup catchers all year long. So I was really excited to see that. Later on in the game, you have Westy hitting a bomb. We go up 5-3. And then you have Cedric Mullins play. Did you see that today, John?
Yes, they were all over that play, bro. They were, oh man. I saw 4 or 5 different places. Like, this has to be the play of the year, and not just from one location, but he was, I mean, he was over the wall, what, almost up to his knees.
So the impressive part to me, he was running full speed, and the ball was hit hard. It wasn't like a floater that he had time to camp under. Like the ball was hit hard. He's running like full speed. He knew exactly where the wall was. He timed his jump. His cleat didn't really stick in the wall, but he grabbed the wall with his hand and high pointed the ball as it was coming down and kind of just catches and twists off the wall. It was a thing of beauty. It was like poetry in motion. It was such a great play. And he never shows the ball. He just catches it, comes down, just starts running in. And I'm like, it looked like the fan caught it. Like, is he just trying to deke everyone and just run into the dugout without ever showing anyone the ball? And then finally you see the replay and he gets up there and gets it. You're like, that is ridiculous. And one of the best catches I've seen. I wasn't live there, obviously, but I was watching the game live. It was an amazing play, especially to preserve a 5-4. I think it was a 5-4 lead at that point. Obviously Cano comes in to blow the game, but what a catch, man. And that could be his swan song there as an Oriole as well. You see people on social media like, hey, we got to sign. Like, he had a great series, we took 3 out of 4 from Toronto. He had a really nice series, made a couple great plays in the outfield, bat came alive. So I get what fans are thinking, but they got to think long-term as well, right? When it comes to Cedric.
Yeah. But, and, the other day, um, it, there's just doesn't seem to be a lot of interest in outfielders. Like I was reading through some of the things on Mullins, and then when we talked to oh, what's his name? from the Locked on Orioles. His name's
Connor
still on my
Newcomb.
note. Connor.
Yeah, Connor Newcomb.
And Connor said when he was doing his research, there's nothing to like compare the Cedric Mullins trade to. And I think so many as I did some research on it as well after Connor talked about it. And there's outfielders are a dime a dozen. Every organization has, a minor league system stockpiled with them. That unless you're an above average bat to go along with the good fielding, eh, it's not out there. And I just don't think I just really don't see Mullins going anywhere, him giving enough value to a team to get something back in return for him. I did until we talked to Connor and he said that, and I went and dug in. I'm like, yeah, there's not a lot of value here in Mullins.
Well, I think two things the Orioles have to weigh. Number one, is the return going to be worth that? Because he is such an integral part of the Oriole community and, his USA baseball background and he's kind of the team captain, right? So him and O'Hearn have kind of taken the leadership role, I feel like, on this team with Adley, obviously, as the young guy up and coming. But I feel like, if the juice isn't worth the squeeze, if you're not getting really anything out of it, maybe you just hold on to him, maybe see if you can extend him or let him walk if you don't think he's part of the future. But the other thing, John, though, is I know there's no comp for a center fielder, but I feel like on a corner outfield position, just the defensive upgrade, like if he's not going to cost you that much, why not go and get a guy and you can put him in the seventh, eighth, and ninth innings in a tight game? He'll get you a bunt if you need to. He'll put together good at bats when he's in a good streak at the plate. But either way, he's going to play great defense, save you some runs out there, make some great plays, and you have that aspect of it. The other thing you said that they haven't really been outfield, movement. It looks like it's been really pitching heavy right now. It's really been focused on relief pitching, and a lot of the relief pitchers went today. So I think you're going to see a shift between now and 6 p.m. tomorrow where we're looking more towards position players because Ryan Helsley went today. Duran from the Twins went today. The Phillies and Mets both filled big voids in the back of their bullpen. And the one of the guys that we talked about, Mick Abel, right, ends up going to Minnesota in that Philly deal for Duran. And they also got another top 100 prospect and a young catcher from Single A. I think his name was Diaz or something like that. But they made a good move there. And so I think we're now going to see a shift towards outfielders.
Yeah, we'll see. We got 24 hours left, right? Or no, is it 3:00 tomorrow afternoon?
I think it's 6. I think it's 6 p.m.
Okay, so 6 p.m. So between now and 6 p.m., I guess we'll be seeing, whatever the trades and whatever else is going to be going on. I saw a couple interesting things as I was doing a little bit of prep work here that the Padres are attempting to get an outfielder. They were talking to the Indians about Stephen Kwan, their left fielder, and then Jaron Duran from Boston going to San Diego. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting next what, not 24 hours, 23 hours or 21 hours to see what's going to go on. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if Mullins is going to be getting any sort of interest from anybody, and then if the Orioles are going to get anything back for him, because I just don't think they got enough back for Sir Anthony.
Well, Sir Anthony and Soto brought back, some good prospects. I mean, if you take a look at the rankings now for the minor league, is that Jason?
Hi, fellas.
Jason's here.
Welcome.
Jason, how are you, sir?
Jason, you look tan. What is going on, buddy?
Well, first of all, I live in Florida.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
You're in New Jersey.
All right. Still tan. Still tan.
You left the right week, Jason, because it's been like 120 degrees here all week.
Apparently it's hot here, too. So, used to it, though. God knows what. It is what it is. So, how's it going? What are we talking about? What are we doing here?
Well, that black and orange team with the wings, we were talking about what they've been doing here recently. They took on another bird and in
Yeah.
the bluebirds up there, and they did pretty well this week. But we were kind of discussing, the game today and just kind of the trade deadline situation with the Orioles and just kind of some other teams going on around baseball. But what are your thoughts on? We were just kind of talking about what we got back for Sir Anthony and what we got back for Soto. Give me a little synopsis, Jason, of what you're thinking about how we did there.
I mean, it's par for the course. I mean, that's what you get when you trade rental relievers. They're only going to be on that team till the end of the season, right? Like if they would have stayed here, they would have been free agents. I mean, you get what you get. I think with Soto, they were enamored with the 22-year-old pitcher that they got lower in the organization, but has a lot of promise. And then the other guy like if you were making a playoff run this year, the other guy they got from the Mets would be able to probably give you some bullpen time and might still before the end of the year, depending on who goes. Now, as far as what they got for Sir Anthony, I like none of this surprises me. This is what I expected. They're getting multiple pieces unless they package one of these guys with someone else, try to get a higher level guy. That's so for me. I mean, I'm not surprised by anything, and I'm satisfied with it. It's what you expected this time of year. I mean, if they wait a little longer, they might be able to hold some teams hostage. But I mean, not a big surprise.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is if you wait too long, you have a bunch of deals you're trying to swing probably, and they probably can't do them all in the nth hour. So you want to get some of these guys taken care of. The run on relievers was today. So, a guy like Bednar, the Pirates really can hold some people hostage since he might be the best guy left on the market. But again, you take a risk when you do that, like you said, Jason, where you have all this other stuff going on you'd like to get done. I'm with you, buddy. I think they did okay. There's not a lot that they're going to get out of these trades. You saw it's got to be a closer to get somebody really like a Mick Abel, like the Twins. It would have been Batista to get that guy. So you're not going to get that level guy for who we were selling. You can see that if you kind of compare the trades that went down. I think, the Mets had to give up a lot in a couple of those trades, but their bullpen now is stacked. If you take a look at the Mets, what they did, they just got the hit. But I am curious to see which position players go. So, John, I'll start with you. Who do you think goes tomorrow? Do you think we stay pat, just kind of deal with these relievers and kind of just reload for next year? What's your thoughts, John?
I still think that somebody's going to want O'Hearn. I think that the Orioles are hearing something for him. I've read in a couple places that there's been a little bit of chatter about O'Hearn because he can play, he can play first, he can play right, he can, I mean, not play right well, but he can, he can be out there for you. Yeah,
he can't play correct, but he can play right.
right. But I think if it's going to be a position player with the Orioles, it's gonna be O'Hearn. I just don't think Mullins or anybody else is valuable enough for somebody else to want to put a lot of money on. As it regards to the entire league, it looks like the Padres are really talking and trying to get an outfielder of some sort. There was rumors they were talking to the Indians, seeing if they could get Stephen Kwan. They were talking to who else?
There are no Indians, John. There are no Indians.
Guardians, excuse me. Or a Duran from Boston. And they were also in discussions with the A's trying to bring in Mason Miller. They're talking about packaging righty Dylan Cease and catching prospect Ethan Salas for Duran or Kwan. So that could be a big trade. But the Orioles, I just think it may be O'Hearn, but otherwise they may just stay pat.
Jason, what are your thoughts on what the Orioles might do in the next 24 hours or so?
I mean, I would say the O'Hearn for sure. I think, as sad as that's going to be, especially after the last 5-6 games this team has had. But I think Mullins got a lot of steam, recently, and this is the time of year now. You might you're selling him for what he is right now. He's a streaky player, right? Like he had a hot part of the season. I mean, but he'll carry you for 2 months. You just hope that the 2 months are after you acquire him, right? And then, so I do think that that's a possibility. And I think Loriano, I wouldn't count him out. Like, definitely, if they want to part with a guy that has control. I had heard the same rumor with San Diego, but I had also heard that it would be that the Orioles were a possibility for Loriano, for one of the relievers. But now that we've dealt our two of our top relievers, I mean, there's still what Kittering. He's got to be a possibility. So I wouldn't be surprised if another 3 or 4 guys go.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of possibilities remaining, and I think they're not done. I think that's the answer, right? So it could be O'Hearn to me seems like a shoe in to go because of the number of landing spots for him. There's just so many landing spots. Milwaukee wants him. Houston's talked. There's just all kinds of places he could end up. The other guys that I think that we haven't talked about yet that could go is some of the back end starters. I don't see why a team, who would like some pitching depth going into the end of the year and possibly if they're, into the playoffs would be Charlie Morton kicking the curb on him. Maybe Zach Eflin, if they're sure that he's going to be healthy enough, they might take a look at Eflin. So I wouldn't be surprised necessarily if one of those two guys goes. John and I talked a little bit on Sunday. You need some depth down the stretch here. You want to make sure that you have solid starting pitching. Number one, preserve your guys for the postseason, but also just to kind of feel a little more comfortable as you finish off the season. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Morton. I would say Morton over Eflin at this point, but I know the Cubs were kicking the tires. I heard on Eflin earlier this evening, so maybe that's a possibility even as well.
Yeah, Eflin to me, Mike. Sorry to cut you off, but now Eflin to me, I don't know why I didn't mention him before. I mean, and when we had Connor Newcomb on here, I mean, he said the same thing. All these rental players are going to be gone. I do. I think that you're looking for another. I said 3 or 4 a minute ago, but it could be even more. Like any of these guys that are on 1-year deals, but it's so hard to sell it now. Like, yeah, they went on a 5-game win streak, another 5-game win streak, but then what? You're supposed to beat the Rockies, then you surprisingly take 3 or 4 from the Blue Jays, who are competing for a division championship. So then they're going to Chicago. They should handle Chicago. Then what? So I don't know how this is going to get sold. It's very interesting to me. But the way that I thought we were going into this month was that they would trade almost every single 1-year guy that had 1 year left, including Cedric Mullins.
Well, Jason, I mean, look at it. We should have been, there was we just talked about today. We should have won that game today. There's no reason that we didn't win the game except Cano. And then Friday night, I don't know, I didn't watch the game closely enough, but there was a chance, we could have potentially won Friday. I mean, we could have swept both these series if we could have, put the back end together.
You're correct.
Yeah, no doubt about it, John. No doubt about it. And that's kind of the way it's been all year, though. We've had opportunities, up and down, defensively, offensively, pitching wise, and they just have found ways to lose. So that's why we're in the current predicament that we're in. But what we have to do now is make the best decision moving forward for 2026, because right now we're not making the playoffs. I mean, I think we can make a run to get close to 500 by the end of the year, but there's just so many teams ahead that we talked about. John and I talked about a bunch of teams that we thought should be buyers or sellers last episode, and they were all middle of the pack teams at 3.5, 4 out of the wild card. We're sitting 9, 10 out of the wild card just to get to, somewhere where it even matters. So I don't think that we're really looking for this year, but moving forward, we got to make those decisions. So here's the question that I have for you guys tonight, and think about it for a second, but what are the top 3 things or a couple of things that you're looking for out of the back half of this season, the back 2 months of this season, as we move into 2026? What are the things that you have your eye on as an Orioles fan that you want to see out of particular pieces of this team moving forward. So, John, I'll start with you. Give me one of those things that you're looking for in the last couple months.
It's going to be who the starters are going to be in the starting rotation. Are they going to actually bring back Bradish? Are they going to bring back Wells? Are they going to bring back Grayson? What are they going to do with them? Are they going to just hold them out and give up on the rest of the season, which, in my opinion, is what should happen? None of those guys should see any action except maybe, a few minor league rehab starts here or there. But what are they going to do with all these starting pitching they have on the injured list?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there, John. There's a number of interesting names coming back in rehab, and I know that Bradish had a pretty good rehab start, threw a few pitches, got through 3+ innings, which is good to see. But of course, no rush order there to get him back. Jason, what are you looking for? Do you have something that you're interested in seeing?
Absolutely. And I've been waiting to talk about this. I think offensive momentum going into 2026 for the guys that are going to be around here. And that means getting a full second half of the season from Gunnar Henderson, from Cowser, who missed a good portion of the beginning of the season. Not Cowser, obviously, more than Gunnar. But getting back on track going into 2026, Holiday finishing the season off very strong, making that run for a 2020 guy. Things like this, because everything is going to be built. I know we talk about pitching, rotation. They will fix the pitching next year, because if they don't, the guys that are in there, Elias, the other guys, will be out of a job if they do not fix the pitching next year. So offensively, what are they going to have? What type of momentum? Very similar to Buck Showalter's years right before they made the playoff runs. Finish off the year very strong offensively, and then see what you have going forward.
You make a good point there, Jason, because we've seen an uptick in the offense here recently. I think they scored 39 runs or something in the last 4 games against Toronto. I mean, you're averaging 9 runs a game here in a series versus the AL East leading team. It's definitely an encouraging sign. And we knew going into the season that the offensive potential was there. But this is really the first time we're seeing a full complement of Cowser, Westberg, Adley, Gunnar, Holiday, all together, playing together comfortably in a spot in the lineup. And you're finally kind of seeing what's happening here. So kind of to tack onto that, what I'm looking for, one of the things I'm looking for moving forward is who is Kobe Mayo? Who is Kobe Mayo? So, like, he should be playing every day somewhere, either DH or first base. If you want to try him somewhere else, whatever. But I think one of those 2 spots is probably more likely. And we've seen him start to produce a little bit here over the last few weeks. I think you have to give him some slack, some grace period here over the last couple months of the season, and really see what you have in Kobe Mayo. Is he going to be a platoon first base guy? Is he going to be a DH for you moving forward? Or is he just another piece or a trade chip for you moving into next year, because you have Basayo coming up and you have these young catchers, and you want to see somebody else? Do you need to keep O'Hearn and sign him, or re-sign O'Hearn maybe after the season? So you got to see what you have in Mayo. So that's a big question I'd like to see answered as we move into August and September. Jason, you have anything else that kind of is on your mind here moving forward?
I mean, it's kind of the same deal. It's just like finishing. It's a mix between what I said, what you said, and finishing the season off really, really strong. Not just offensively, but also pitching wise, staying hot defensively, blah, blah, blah. But also some of these younger guys that might be on the fringe minor league wise that might come up, like a Basayo for a September call up. Maybe some of these pitchers that are kind of on the verge there, something like that. Because if they do make moves and get rid of 2 starters, you're going to have to pull somebody from somewhere, right? So just to see what they might have in mind. I would not, again, I caution everyone, I would not take this rotation that's going to finish the year and think that that's going to be anything like 2026, because I am almost positive it's not going to be. I do think it's going to be crazy, just to side note, that this offseason they might actually overdo the pitching side, and I hope they don't forget about the offensive side, because I would like to see, I mean, this is all stuff we can talk about later, but I would like to see Bregman, Schwarber, like, bring them all. We want all of them. You can never have too many guys here. So let's just see what you got and then see what you're going to have to add.
John, what else you got?
I want to see if O'Neill can keep up this hot streak. I want to see if let's say he keeps up this hot streak. Let's say he stays healthy the rest of the year. Let's say he hits, I don't know, 15, 18, 20 home runs here in the last, 2-3 months of the season. Then what do you have? Well, you got yourself a pretty valuable trade chip for the offseason. Or you might have an everyday right fielder that you can maybe deal a Heston Kjerstad. And, if anybody even wants him, I don't know if anybody wants him at this point in time because he's clearly shown to be a failure. But I think in the last 2.5 months of the season, I want to see what O'Neill can do. If O'Neill can stay healthy and if he can keep up this offensive barrage. Because, frankly, since he's come back, I think he's homered in all but, one game? He has 5 home runs in 6 games or something like that. So, I think if he can keep up this pace, this is somebody the Orioles got to consider. Okay, do we keep him? Or I'm sure there's got to be a team out there who would be interested in dealing for him.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, John. I would like just to remind everybody out there that just kind of temper their expectations as we go into August and September, because you're going to see some different players. And so that's my next one is about the pitching staff, because that Baker is gone, Soto's gone, Dominguez is gone, and you saw in a game tonight we talked about Cano in that high leverage situation was probably the best option that we had, and he basically imploded. You're going to have the Corbin Martins who looked like a deer in headlights the other night closing the game. You're going to have guys like that out there on the mound, and they're going to see what they've got. And that's actually a good idea. And understanding that you might have an offensive barrage, but you might be losing some games 9-7 and 7-4. And you're going to have some pitching out there that you're not used to seeing. But with that said, I'd like to see who those high leverage guys could be now that those other guys have moved on. So who can Corbin Martin step up and be a high leverage reliever? Can Kittredge be who we thought he was heading into the season? Because now they're going to be put in those situations. Maybe some of these guys that we get in the trades, are they going to be guys who are going to be high leverage guys moving forward for you? So I'm just curious how the bullpen kind of sorts itself out now that it's a completely different bullpen. So yeah. So Jason or John, either one, do you have anything else? I know that we've kind of hit a lot of points there. Is there anything else, riding into the sunset here as we hit the tail end of 2025? What are you looking for the O's?
Well, what I would like to see is how Jackson Holiday can continue to mature as a leadoff hitter. Right now, he's hitting 261 with an OPS of 722, and 10 stolen bases, 14 home runs. I would love to see if he can get up close to that 300 mark in the last couple months of the season. Because the way he's been hitting, the way, as I watch his at-bats and his progression, as he's, having a much better eye at the plate and not as much. And I think the thing with him is if you watch him hit, he doesn't have as much motion before the pitches as he did when he first started and first came up. He's beginning to mature. I would love to see the last couple months of the season, him just kind of keep maturing and then going on that tear. And like we talked about last time, Mike, being that leadoff hitter that we need, that is a high on over 400 on base percentage, hits around 300, with 25 to 30 stolen bases. And, is the guy we drafted number 1 overall.
Now,
Jason, anything else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. I think that a healthy Jordan Westberg, if he can just, gosh, the O's go as he goes, right? It's so funny because it's like you had Gunnar putting up all these MVP stats, but probably one of the most valuable Orioles when he's there is Jordan Westberg, and the ability to play multiple positions, the ability to bat anywhere in the lineup. And I think him staying healthy and then getting to watch Gunnar, Holiday, and Westberg, those 3 could be perennial all-stars for the next 5 to 6 years or longer, depending on what the Orioles decide. So, yeah, that would be a big thing for me to watch.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see that as well. The last thing I kind of have, and it really depends on what happens here at the deadline, if they trade Ramon Laureano or not. But if they hold on to Ramon, is he going to be like Ryan O'Hearn, the guy who found it when he got here? You know what I mean? Has he found something, or is it just that he's having a nice little stretch here in the middle of July and August? So that's going to be interesting to see as the season unwinds, whether it's with the Orioles probably or with another team. How valuable is that $6.5 million going to be for next year based on his performance, not only offensively, but defensively as the season kind of progresses. The last thing I'd like to say about the O's moving forward, and I'd be curious to get your guys' take on this, is there a chance the O's could be slight buyers here tomorrow in any way? So I've heard rumors potentially like the Orioles are still looking around at maybe controllable starting pitching, and there might be an option maybe there where we're selling off our bullpen, we're selling off some outfield pieces, but also we know what we need for the future, so there's a chance we might take some of these guys maybe and parlay them into something else. So, Jason, let me start with you on this one. Any chance you think that could happen tomorrow?
Absolutely. I mean, they definitely should be. I mean, there's some possibilities out there. I mean, we talked about this a while back, but Pittsburgh's got a couple options that have some years left on them. I mean, and I don't think they're going to cost that much money. I really don't. I'm not convinced. So, like, there's Chicago still, the White Sox. The Angels still have some controllable pieces out there. There's a lot of options. So yeah, I mean,
Did we lose Jason?
No, I'm
Yeah,
here. Did you guys hear me?
Yeah, we lost you
Nope.
for a second, Jason. Can you just finish that thought that you had? We heard the beginning of
Yeah,
it.
I just would not be surprised. I mean, there's a lot of teams out there that have guys with some control that would not cost a whole lot, I think, to get. So I think I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you and I, Mike, when we predicted this about a month and a half, 2 months ago, we said they should be buyers and sellers. So they've sold now. They've sold, but they could also buy. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint what, but like I said, the White Sox, the Angels, the Pirates, they all have controllable pieces that won't cost a lot of money to go get.
John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing as Jason. Like when I made a comment earlier about, what are they going to do with their starting pitching? And I thought, one of my thoughts was that exactly was, okay, what controllable pieces could they potentially, bring in? Would there be any trades with teams who are not really in playoff contention, but may have some needs down the road, like the Pirates and things like that. But I think if it's going to be anything, it's going to be starting pitching, because I don't know, like we talked about before, Mike, last time. I think it's like Charlie Morton obviously isn't going to be here next year, but what will somebody give up something right now for him, and then can we package any deals together to get that further starting pitching with some little bit more team control, and maybe somebody who has a few more starts under their belt with that all inevitable Tommy John surgery already done.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you guys. I just don't know if it's going to match up or not. I guess that's the biggest issue. If it does, I think they'll jump at it, but I'm doubtful maybe that it actually does match up with somebody. You're going to have to find a team that's out of contention, because nobody who's in contention is going to want to give up one of their good starting pitchers at this point, or even their depth starting pitchers, because they're worried about making a run this year. So, Jason, the teams that you mentioned make a lot of sense. A team like Chicago, a team like maybe Miami or LA Angels, a team that is probably on the cusp of being out of it, or at least out of it. You could find a pitcher there that you could maybe control, and then that would want prospects in return, because more than likely that's what we're going to deal to get somebody like that. It's not going to be somebody on our major league roster that they're trying to get, unless I'm completely misreading the situation. So that's my thought there. We're going to have to shift gears, though, because we could talk Orioles all night. Jason, you have one more comment here?
Here's one thing I think that everyone should keep an eye on. And it might not be the Orioles, but it would be actually very interesting if it was. What if they were able to finagle something to get one, if not two, of the Miami starters? Cabrera and who's the one that just came up? Is it Perez? Or am I missing? Yuri Perez, right? What if they could swing a deal and get one or two of those guys? It would cost a little bit. It might cost Mayo. It might cost. I mean, Kerr said, sure. I don't know. Like John said, I don't really know what's going on there, but like it, maybe a Povich or something. But at that point, if you're bringing in those other guys, now I doubt they'd get rid of both in one like that. But I think Cabrera is definitely in play, and he's got control pretty far out. So it's just something to keep an eye on, Mike. That it was interesting that you said that you even brought that question up because that's one that I'll be keeping a close eye on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very interesting. I mean, would you give up a Basayo there? Would you, or maybe give up one of the young guys that we drafted this year for any of those guys?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Any of the guys, not Basayo, but any of those guys you drafted this year, sure. Why not?
Yeah,
That's
I would
interesting.
100%. I think giving up the guys low in the totem pole of minor league baseball makes a lot of sense. But I think, like you said, Basayo is not going anywhere. But we're gonna have, okay, I screwed this up. I screwed our whole season up by saying we had a logjam at catcher. But I mean, at the time we did. But now, I can see giving up a Mayo because I think we're all kind of in agreement that one of these catching guys is going to have to go to first base. There's just not enough room on the roster. So I could see.
Well, don't get
giving
me
up a
wrong,
Mayo.
John. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to get rid of. I think Mayo could be something very special still. You're starting to see it now, but I don't. It's a tough one. If you can get both of them back, sure. But if you're only getting one back, then you might need to go a little deeper within the organization. And they should be salivating to deal with us after what they got with Stowers. But when you can get controllable pitching for guys that aren't quite there yet, I think you have to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, I think so as well.
One more thing that you kind of made me think about while you guys were talking, because I love listening to what you're saying. It always keeps my mind moving. But Mike Trout, we talked about him earlier. Is that somebody, how many failed opportunities have the Angels had to take advantage of a Mike Trout season? And I know he's had some injury problems this year. At what point would they be willing to sell him, and what would it take? I mean, I feel like if you eat some of that contract and give them a few prospects at this point, I think you could have that. And for me, that kind of guy, John and I talked last episode about finding a number 2-3 guy who can just hit 290, get on base, hit 30 doubles and 25 home runs, and that would look really nice in this lineup. Any chance they do something interesting like that?
I think they would be more likely to get someone like a Luis Robert, who's younger, than like Mike Trout. Mike Trout sounds good, but I think the Yankees could throw something more interesting at them because they would probably be looking for a bat. I think the Mets could throw something else out there. What about bringing him home to Philadelphia? I don't know. I mean, there's room for an outfielder out there. And that might be the Dombrowski move. Now that I think about it, that might be the Dombrowski move. Kenley Jansen, Mike Trout to Philadelphia for a bunch of prospects. Oh, I just came up with that one. We'll see elsewhere. I should leave on that note, guys. I really should. Mike Trout.
We already had a mic drop segment. You missed it earlier. But I was ranting about concussion testing, but it's okay. Yeah,
I was going to say the same thing, Jason. I think that I just think if Trout's going to go, it's going to be one of the NL East teams. I don't think I think their asking price is going to be too high for him, and the Orioles are just in no place to need to get him in here for what they're going to call him, because they're not in playoff contention. He's not going to get us into playoff contention. And frankly, with the way he's injury prone the last number of years and things, having Laureano out there is almost a better solution right now than Trout.
But also, and I won't keep dragging this out before we have to go to the next segment, but the thing with Trout is if you wait until the off season, because that's what you're doing, you're playing for next year, right? So if you wait till the off season, you can go get guys that aren't going to cost you giving up any prospects, just cost you money. So there's your right-handed bat in Bregman, your left-handed bat in Schwarber. If you really want to go out and sign Tucker, like all of these other opportunities are there that they don't cost prospects. So I don't know, Mike, if that would be something they would do because, again, it'd be great to have him for this year, but then he's 1 year older when he starts next year.
Yeah, I just don't think they're that creative anyway, but that's just my own personal opinion.
Nope.
Um, John, before we switch gears and talk a little about the other birds here in Baltimore, why don't you tell everybody where they can find us?
Yeah, I'd love to. So you can find us. I've been trying to get on X a little bit more. We're at crab cakes underscore sports on X. We're at crab cakes or dadbods crab cakes and sports at gmail.com. We're at dadbods crab cakes and sports on Instagram and on Facebook. You can always catch us live on Sundays and Wednesdays on both Facebook and YouTube. We are on about 9:35 at that point in time. Otherwise, catch us on your morning drive the day after on all your major podcast, iHeart, Apple, Spotify, etc. So we'd love to hear from you, and like, follow, auto download. That really helps us move up the charts and to get out to reach out to more people about dad bods, crab cakes, and all things sports.
Yeah, we gotta build that empire, that crab cake empire that we're looking to build. And the way we do that is imperialism, and that is by spreading the good word everywhere and slowly taking over one city at a time. So please get out there, find us, follow us, like us on social media. So let's switch gears to the Ravens. So they had their third straight padded practice today in Owings Mills. The big news out of training camp, obviously, was the Isaiah Likely injury, where he broke his foot. Not good, apparently. You need your feet for football. It's in the name of the game. But the problem being he's going to be out, it looks like 6 to 8 weeks, which puts him right close to the beginning of the season and the initial game for the Ravens. So let's start there. Let's talk about what you think about the likely injury, how that impacts the Ravens here moving forward into the preseason matchups and into the beginning of the regular season. Now, John, why don't you start?
I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, if this was the third or fourth week in August, and then we're having to try to figure out, okay, where do we get our third tight end from? What are we going to do? I think that's a little bit bigger deal than now. I mean, I think there's ways around it. With Kohler is a number two tight end on most other teams in this league. And then Pancake Pat can fill that void as well. So I don't think it's as big of a deal, especially now with Hopkins in that wide receiver three, the Tez Walker we talked about last time. I don't think it's as big of a deal as it could have been, say if it was the last week in August or something. I think it'll be just fine. He'll be back first or second week of the season, and I'm not too concerned at all. Jason, what do you think? You were shaking your head there.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking that the only thing is like with that foot injury, is he going to be able to hit the ground running right away? And I do think that they were trying to package him more. I don't want to say that you signed a decoy and DeAndre Hopkins, but I really think that they were thinking likely would be the third option in the passing game. Like that was going to be their secret weapon, if you will, because Andrews can block more, and then you'd have um, Zay Flowers, and then Likely and Bateman obviously running out there. It's just another weapon. So, I mean, is it a big deal on a scale of 1 to 10? I'd say it probably is like a 5, 4.5, or a 5, as far as it being a really bad for the team. Because I do think he'll recover. It's just how quickly will he recover? And he's still pretty young. I don't know. I think they wanted him out there to do more things, but I don't think it's not Derrick Henry going down, guys.
It was what, 2 years ago that Bateman had that, was it Elizabeth Frank's injury?
Live, yeah,
That
Liz Frank.
Liz Frank injury, that he heard it in training camp and said it wasn't a big deal, but then it kind of affected him all the way throughout the season. So I'm just really hoping it's not something of that. I'm hoping from what I read, it just seems more of like a fracture of some sort that will just kind of heal on its own. Nothing in the muscle or the tissue or anything like that.
Well, the one thing I'm going to jump in and say though, and Mike, you're aware of this because we've talked about this to lengths, but the Ravens are notorious for downplaying injuries. So just everyone keep that one in the back of your mind. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and actually that was my biggest concern, with this injury is that it becomes something long term where they bring him back, and he's that kind of player that's a twitchy guy too. He's exploding in and out of cuts. They don't really have another tight end like that on the roster. Kohler and Andrews are more of a similar build where they're the tall, big, rangy target guys. Kohler's a really good blocker. I think they have to maybe redesign some things with some of their offensive plays probably because Likely is such a weapon. But I don't think it's earth-shattering. I'd say 5, Jason, on a scale. Jason's scale. What did you call it? Your scale of scared of what's happening? I don't know.
Scale of disappointment and heartbreak.
That's it. Yeah. So on the Heartbreak Hotel scale, I think it's a 5. But I think they can overcome that. The problem is too, man, the early schedule is tough. You got Kansas City and Buffalo in there. You got some tough games. So you would have liked to have your whole stable of horses in there to go, into the season with. It always gives you that hope, though, if you play them again the second time, they hadn't seen them the first time, they don't see the same exact thing. But I hope that it's a quick healing injury. They said 6 to 8 weeks. 6 weeks puts him right about the start of the season. So, hopefully by week 3 or 4, he's back to full speed again. That's at least what I'm going to hope. I think you can't expect him to start the season. You shouldn't expect him out there on game 1. But I think you should expect him out there by, I'd say, week 4. If he's not out there by week 4, I'm pretty concerned that something's going on beyond that. So,
and I'm trying to see
go ahead.
Any ideas of somebody else to bring in? I'm going through my list here, waiting for this.
Slow down.
Well, we got to bring somebody in to fill his spot right now.
You don't. Charlie Kohler is very good. Calm down. God, you want to get rid of everybody, bring everybody in all the time. I mean, just calm yourself down. You wanted us to bring in half the back end of the defense before. Just relax. Let these guys in the roster.
No, John, you're like Michael Scott in The Office when the fire happens. And you're like, oh, my God, everybody stay calm. Stay freaking calm. And he's throwing copiers out the window. That's you right now.
So, Mike, let me ask you this. So, with him out, we talked about this the other day. How much more important does Keaton Mitchell become? Or does he become even less important, or does he stay the same?
Does Keaton Mitchell play tight end? He plays tight end.
No, yeah. I'm saying when they split Likely out, when they go with the quote-unquote tight end, but it's really more of a 5 wide receiver set. You know what I'm talking about, where they have the quarterback Jackson and the bunch.
Maybe
you put Mitchell out there because nobody can run with him.
Maybe he gains some snaps. I think if you're listening to the reporters that are out there at camp, like they're saying, man, like he's got to beat out Justice Hill and he's got to beat out Derrick Henry right now because he's 3-5 snaps a game. So I think he's got his work cut out for him. Obviously, the more injuries that happen, the more opportunity he's going to see, and the more he plays well, the more opportunity he's going to see. I'm not sure there's going to be a direct correlation between Isaiah Likely's injury and the amount of playing time that Keaton Mitchell has.
I think Tez Walker's more likely, guys. Like you guys mentioned him already. And if you remember a couple weeks ago, that was my kind of sleeper guy for the year on the offensive side. I think this might open the door for him to do more slot type stuff. Maybe Bateman goes in the slot more. But I wouldn't, John, in all seriousness, no, I wouldn't overreact. They're not going to bring anybody in. I mean, Charlie Kohler is a very, very capable football player. And this is actually, in my mind, it could be a good thing for him to now step into the spotlight a little bit more. And then, should I even say a good thing if he misses any games and we get him for a cheaper price than I don't want to get ahead of myself, but
Kohler had some great games last year, just showing that he is, he is athletic. He's not just a big guy who can hit and then turn around and catch the ball once in a while. He actually is. Like, it was Cincinnati where he got down to like the 4, and they had to pull him up, and then they eventually gave him threw the ball for the touchdown. But he's a fairly athletic guy too, who I think is, he's ripe for a breakout. With the downfall of, or with the injury to Isaiah likely. But I think we're gonna miss. If he misses any extended period of time, we are gonna miss him. And I think, like you said, Jason, I think Tez maybe have to be the guy that steps up there in that kind of bigger bodied, athletic position there.
Well, from what I hear, if you need a tight end, it's about squats, like squats or Bulgarian split squats, maybe some deadlifting, anything that
Mute.
involves the glutes. I'm sorry. No, but I don't think the Ravens have Noah Fan on speed dial, John. No one's coming in here. I don't think anytime soon. I think we're gonna stay pat with what we've got. Now, if they sign him, I'll eat my words. I'll wear my hat backwards. I'll do whatever you want me to do. But I think they're okay. So other notes from camp today. Just kind of listening to the reporters that are out there, because obviously I couldn't get my ticket. Um, I'm not bitter about it. But Chidobe Awuzie apparently out there looks healthy today, sticking to some people, which, the depth at cornerback is one of the strengths of the team, it seems like right now, which is super exciting. And then TJ Tampa, who, was drafted, I believe, in the same draft as Tez Walker, going one-on-one with them, battling, made a couple plays, breaking up a pass today. So exciting to see some of these unsung secondary players playing well at camp. How do you think that evolves as training camp continues and maybe into the regular season? John, I'll start with you.
Well, I think that's going to be a huge asset to the team. And then I also saw today at camp that Malachi Starks was taking reps with the cornerbacks as well. That he was doing a very good job on the man-to-man coverage and things as well. But I think that third safety spot is kind of the only opening for some of these guys outside of solid special teams. That I think Armour Davis has had some good times, but then TJ Tampa and some of the other guys that we've talked about are just going to have to compete for that third safety spot. But I think it just, as I read more about our secondary, it's just it's set, and it's one of the best that we've ever, hats off to Ed Reed and all those guys. But this is one of the best secondaries, I think, on paper that the Ravens have ever had.
Jason, you see that TJ Tampa and Awuzie are playing well at camp with Armour Davis on the sideline right now. They're getting more opportunities potentially. How do you see this all shaking out, and does it have an impact come regular season time?
No, I mean, I think right now it's the more reps you can get, the better, right? Because you never know. It was a few years back where you thought you had this fully stacked cornerback room and this secondary, and then all of a sudden, guys start dropping like flies. So if that's going to be the case, then the more reps, the better. Now, what I think the having like Awuzie as a on the outside, you can still move Marlon to the inside, TJ Tampa out there, like being able to switch guys around like that. Just the more reps and like I said in training camp, the better. So these guys are ready to step in and play.
And Jair Alexander had a little bit of a down day, they said today, but that's going to happen. There's going to be ebbs and flows when it comes to camp. The biggest issue that I'm worried about right now is the offensive line. Apparently there were 5 false starts again today at practice. Understanding they were working on some blitzing packages today, but also understanding that the line kind of knew what was coming some of the time and still were having trouble with the cadence. I talked to John, Jason, on Sunday about this, is that the only way the Ravens are really going to lose a bunch of games is if they beat themselves, it seems like. And one of the biggest ways to beat yourself is with penalties. So does this concern you at all?
Not yet. I mean, this is the way, you want it to happen now, right? We want all the false starts to happen now. We want all the minor injuries to happen now. Get it all. This is what training camp's for, because we the Ravens do have a tendency to, number one, play down to their competition. Number two, make stupid mistakes. Like Matabike, I can't tell you, a couple years ago, it was like every time we turn around in a really important game type situation, it'd be like some stupid penalty. So if you're going to do it, get it out now. I don't want to say this is by design because it's not, but they put more pressure on these guys now. They throw more at them to see what they can handle and try. And then by the time the season starts, you're hoping that they're this like finely oiled machine. So I'm not at all worried yet because I do think that this is kind of on purpose.
Well, did you guys
Well,
see the Ravens hired a former referee to come in and help them with all their penalties?
A lot of teams do that. A lot of teams, you just don't hear about it. Like they bring in guys that have been in the league office or officiating or like high school referees officiated for years. They bring them in and they have them run through, and it's mainly during training camp and stuff like this. But then it's also sometimes they'll keep them on for the whole season, like for practice and stuff. But that's not a. I'm glad you mentioned that, but that's not something that is like we're not reinventing the wheel here. It does happen a lot.
well, one more thing I'd like to touch on, with the Ravens real quick, and it's kind of on the spot for you guys. We've talked positively about the Ravens. I think there's good feelings about the Ravens here in Baltimore and probably across the country. You guys can feel that a little more than me. But if there was someone who would take a step back this year, if you could envision maybe someone who maybe we're expecting to do something, but maybe they're not going to live up to our expectations this year, what kind of player do you think that might be? So, John, I'm going to start with you. If there was a Raven that maybe took a half step backwards or a full step backwards this year, who would it be?
I think it might be Nate Wiggins. I think there's going to be a lot more pressure on him this year, moving Marlon to the slot. All the talk about him being the number one cornerback, him matching up with the number one receiver, and then bringing in Jair Alexander as cornerback 2, and sticking him out there on the island by himself as a second-year cornerback. I think that a lot of the things that we expect of him may be too much and may just, come all crashing down. And we may, granted, assuming we don't have a ton of interesting things, we got depth in the secondary and we can help him out. But I think there's a ton put on Nate Wiggins' shoulders. And if one guy on that defense or on this team who can't keep up with it, unfortunately, I think it might be Wiggins.
Do I just have to pick one? Can I pick?
I mean, well, let's start with one, and if you want to expound upon that, feel free.
Okay, and then after this, guys, I am going to bounce. But I just wanted to make my guest appearance for this evening, and then come Sunday night, everyone, I am back. I'm back home in Florida, and we're
back again.
Hopefully. But
are you bringing a friend?
I don't have any of those.
All your friends are on here already, right, Jason?
Right. So to answer your question, Marlon Humphreys is one that I'm very concerned. I think he played at an incredibly high level last year. He's the one that I do where he could take a step back. I don't know if it's a drastic step back, but he could take a step back. And the two other ones, I cringe to say, but Derrick Henry, because of father time, and when it hits good. That could happen at any time. And then just a sleeper that I'm a little concerned about, Zay Flowers. But I don't know if it's because of a lack of play or just a lack of getting him the ball in certain instances and what he can do to make his game go to a different level. Because they did bring in some other weapons. So he's never been a guy that's going to go up and make a contested catch a lot of times because of his size and whatnot. But to me, it's just one that I have kind of in my back pocket per our other games that we play, but I'm not so sure it's going to hit or not. It's just one that I'm kind of on my radar.
That's a big old pocket you got there, Jason.
I know.
I think that for me, it's Roger Rosengarten. I have a little bit of concern about him. I think there's a comfortability there having Makari as kind of a safeguard on both sides of the tackle box, and then having him there as a second-year player, a lot of times you see that sophomore slump. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe play a little bit less effectively this year than he did last year. And then the other guy, and this is going to sound awful, but Lamar. Like, how do you repeat a 40 touchdown, 4 interception season? Like, I'm not saying he can't do it, and I'm not saying I doubt Lamar is an outstanding football player. I'm just saying, how do you stay at that level? And if he does it, man, it's another MVP caliber season, which he's clearly capable of. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he's somewhere around mid-30s with the touchdowns and he gets up to close to 10 interceptions this year, just because it's still a great season. He's still a Pro Bowl player. I just think that to repeat that season is very difficult. So those would be the guys that I think.
I hope you're wrong.
Oh, me too. I hope we're all wrong.
All right.
I hope we're all wrong. I hope nobody takes a step backwards. We're all moving the same. We're all rowing the same boat forward, and that we're all improving.
All right,
day.
PJ. You know, Flele knows all about rowing the boat, and Bateman.
All right, fellas. Well, I'm going to leave you here in capable hands, John, with Mike. Mike, you're doing a fabulous job driving the ship. I appreciate it.
Big shoes to fill. Big shoes to fill, Captain Jason.
Right. Well, I will see you guys on Sunday. You guys enjoy it, and good luck the rest of the way through.
All right. Thanks for hopping on, Jay. See you, buddy.
Absolutely.
All right, bro. We'll see you.
All right, John. It's time for our last segment here. We're going to do a little blast from the past. Let's see what we're talking Ravens right now, so let's just stick with that category tonight and see if we can stump each other on some former Ravens with some clues, and see if we can discover some thoughts on some guys that we haven't heard from a while.
All right. Well, I can go first here. So my former Raven was born September 15th, 1962 in Milledgeville, Georgia. He graduated from East Carolina. He was picked in the 1984 draft in the 10th round, 280th pick. He played for the Browns, the Redskins, and the Ravens.
Ernest Biner.
Yes.
Yes,
Dude,
sir.
let me finish this. He is a coach for the Redskins, the Titans, the Jaguars, and the Buccaneers. He is famous for a one-word problem in Cleveland.
The fumble.
The fumble. And I saw Ernest Biner at a BMW dealer one time, and I had the thought of asking him if he fumbles his keys when he gets in the car.
Oh, dude. I'm glad you didn't. Yeah, it's hard to have your career defined by a play like that. And I remember when he played in Baltimore initially, he was a good running back. He was a very good running back. Very capable.
Yes, absolutely.
Just completely unfortunate.
That one play.
Hopefully that's not Mark Andrews' career, right? Where he has that one play. What are we gonna call that? The dropsies, like the Butterfingers. Right. Like, I hope it's not something that has a
we're not in Cleveland, so we don't have. We're not in Cleveland, so we don't have one word answers for all the bad things that have happened in Baltimore sports. You know, like the catch and the
Cundiff has become a verb.
Drive.
I don't know. The Cundiff something means to really mess it up. So I don't know.
What about Meyer? What about Mayer? Anything?
Oh gosh, Mayer? Yeah, I can't do it. Yeah. I can't think about it. So I'll go with my guy. He was born November 10th, 1980, and played wide receiver in the NFL. He played in college for the Tennessee Volunteers. And he was selected. I'm not going to tell you that yet. I'm going to hold on to that. He had 321 career receptions, 4,837 receiving yards, and 35 touchdowns. So he had a nice little career in the NFL. This player in his career played with the Saints, the Eagles, the Patriots, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Washington Redskins. How we doing? He has a famous relative who played the same position. That should help.
Is it
And
Dante Stallworth?
yes, it is Dante Stallworth. So I gave you the too good of a clue there. Um, yeah, Dante
No,
Stallworth.
I knew the Tennessee and the Saints.
He played on the '07 Patriots, but also obviously he played in Baltimore in the 2010 season with the Ravens. Um, but it was
I
just
remember
kind of
that.
a small sample size. I think it was only a few catches he had here in Baltimore that year. But he had a good career, especially early on in New Orleans. He had a couple really, really good seasons as a wide receiver.
Drew
He was a
Brees had a
fantasy
lot.
football relevant player.
Right, Drew Brees made a lot of players there in New Orleans. Very good, very good players for a while.
Yeah, he was pretty good at football. I think that's why he's in Canton. He's gonna be in Canton if he's not already.
Yeah,
All right. So trade deadline tomorrow. If something crazy breaks, I might hop on here and kind of talk about it. Other than that, we'll save it until Sunday. John, anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this puppy up tonight?
nothing at all. I think we just we should have had a 7-game winning streak, and it just eats me alive. I go to bed at night just thinking about what could have been. And as an Orioles
Well,
fan, that's the way it's been my entire life.
well, they have a day off tomorrow to sleep it off, and then they go to Chicago and they go to Philly, and it should be interesting to see how they rebound from this loss tonight. But the offense certainly has some momentum, just like the Dad Bods. We have some momentum as we build into August, and I'm excited about the Ravens season and training camp and all these exciting sports. When purple and black and orange and black are going at the same time, my world is right. So thanks for tuning in
Absolutely.
this evening for Dad Bods, Crab Cakes, and Sports. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Don't forget to subscribe on Red Circle, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your free podcasts. While you're at it, don't forget to leave us that 5-star review. It certainly helps us out. If you like and follow us, we get some more downloads. We're trying to spread that word far and wide. Be sure to follow us on social media. John's Xing it up right now. Find us on Facebook. You find us on Instagram at dadbods_crabcakes_sports. Have a question or topic you'd like us to cover, hit us up at our email, dadbodscrabcakesandsports@gmail.com. You never know, we might use your idea or shout you out on our next episode. But until next time, keep rocking that dad bod, eating those crab cakes, and never miss the game.
Hasta la vista. See you all Sunday.